everyone, we'll begin our webinar, Run Modern Apps with Cloudian, Cloud Native Object Storage for Tanzu, in just a moment, but wanted to give everybody a chance to join. In the meantime, we'll go over a few housekeeping items. So, I want to remind everyone that although you'll be muted for the duration of the webinar, we will be taking written questions at the end, so please enter those in via the Ask a Question tab at the bottom of your screen. You can also download further information in the Attachments tab that's also located at the bottom of your screen. After the webinar is over, you'll be sent a copy of the presentation. And also, when the webinar concludes, please take the time to leave us some feedback so we can continue to improve this process. And with that, welcome to our viewers. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today. Again, Run Modern Apps with Cloudian, Cloud Native Object Storage for Tanzu. My name is Jennifer Lynn. I will be your host today. And joining us, we have Michaela Lindsay. She's the product marketing, or she manages product marketing at VMware's Marketplace. We also have Amit Rulani, Director of Technology Alliances at Cloudian. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Jen.
Perfect. So before we begin, again, I'm just going to point out that for those that just joined, we'll be taking questions at the end. Please feel free to answer those as they arise, and we'll handle those at the end of the webinar. And with that, I'll kick it off and hand it over to Amit.
Thank you, Jen, and welcome everybody to our webinar of Modern Apps with Cloudian, VMware, and how our cloud-native object storage, along with VMware Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, TKG, is going to be the solution for you guys. So before we get into specifics of what we're going to talk about, I just wanted to touch on a few of the key challenges of why we are having this conversation, why Kubernetes, why cloud native, and what we are seeing in the industry in general, right? So to begin with, I just want to say, it's the digital era, and digital businesses require a new approach. Why is that? Well, if you look at how the IT function has transformed, it actually has become a lot more prominent within an organization and has become a critical enabler for delivery of goods and services. And the demand for IT services is just growing. It's actually growing many folds, especially with the pandemic, with people working remote. The idea of being able to do things on demand certainly has added a lot of workload on the IT services. And a key aspect of these struggles that the IT organization has today is the fact that increasingly organizations have started to use on-premises data centers as well as the whole public cloud conversation, right? A lot of organizations are now cloud-first organizations, but there's always going to be that aspect of data and applications that need to reside on premises in their own data centers, whether it's because of regulatory concerns, whether it's cost, whether it's so many other factors. Security comes to mind, right? And selectively running applications in environments that give you the most benefit becomes now an IT function, right? Applications increasingly migrate between these two environments. Some of the DevOps environments on-prem can or in the cloud will need to be run on-prem because of regulatory reasons, and vice versa. This obviously has led to increased complexities. Many IT organizations have started creating separate infrastructure teams to manage and deal with these complexity. Obviously, this has led to inefficiencies in the way the organizations are managing the data infrastructure. IT has also struggled to move applications between these two infrastructures, so to speak. And then finally, of course, right, the very applications running on these infrastructures are changing. And that we are going to address specifically that today. And we call those modern applications. But the traditional applications, which we're going to call monolithic applications, are giving way to microservices that have their own needs. This requires new infrastructure, new learning, new skill sets. And IT can't address all of the needs of these new applications with the infrastructure they have in hand today, typically, right? Double clicking on the application side, when you talk about the monolithic architectures, right, where every piece of application is intertwined from the I/O to data processing to rendering. These are the traditional approaches, as we call, to application development and packaging. Everything is in one package. That's a challenge. uh, the code bases are larger. It's more difficult to maintain and debug. It is a challenge to separate, to separate and work on individual components, right? You may need certain components that need to be debugged separately, to be scaled separately. You cannot do that with monolithic applications, right? And on top of this, typically the development environment, the test environment, the dev test environment, and the production environments are seldom identical. Uh, the operating system may be different, the hardware specification may be different. Everything becomes a challenge when you're talking about monolithic applications. Fast forward to modern applications. Typically, you know, we talk about these as microservices or independent or standalone capabilities designed as an executable or a process, right? And these are new concepts quickly displacing the monolithic application, and for good reasons, right? Uh, what are those reasons? One, it's the resource efficient scalability of microservices. Instead of spinning up an entire new instance of an application, microservices gives you the flexibility, or gives the organization the flexibility to scale only the in-demand portion of the application. Gone are the days where everything had to scale. If you want to scale your data infrastructure, you're going to scale your compute, storage, networking, everything together. No, you can actually start creating different segments and scaling each of those separately, right? Deployment cycles are faster. That's the second point, right? This goes directly to time to market. The whole microservices architecture is designed to do only one thing, right? So they consist of relatively small amount of code and have fewer interdependencies. That actually reduces the time to development and time to market. And of course, less expensive to build and maintain, because they require much less time to test, for the dev test cycle, and for the deployment cycle. They avoid downtime during updates, right? So this all sounds great. I mean, this is how everything should have always been done. But obviously, there is a catch, and the catch is microservices bring their own challenges to the data centers and the infrastructure that they require. The benefit of adopting these microservices require change in the status quo. You cannot do things the way you used to and say that we're still going microservices, right? For instance, microservices pull the complexity out of the application itself and places it on other systems, right? So it's a little bit of a moving around of complexities. And microservices also needs robust management and orchestration to deal with the complexities of hundreds or thousands of microservices replacing one single application, right? There's a learning involved. There's also the whole complexity of managing all of these things in in together. As an example of this complexity to be managed, each microservices can have its own data. Um, one microservices, one microservice can use traditional or relational database, and another one can use a NoSQL database. Everything has to be managed in the same manner if we are to go to microservices, right? And microservices are most widely or mostly deployed as containers, right? And this is where we are going to have our topic today. And it's the whole container revolution is actually being aided by Kubernetes and the adoption of Kubernetes. Uh, Originally, containers were designed to be stateless applications, right? And as organizations are starting to move towards microservices, containerization, what they realize is their business depends on applications that can no longer be stateless. There is data being generated by these applications. There's state for these applications. You need business continuity, and with this comes the need for developers and administrators to start thinking about persistent storage or storage volumes for all of these applications. So all of these things together, right? It's great to move from traditional to microservices based architecture. But you got to start thinking about how your infrastructure and your IT services need to evolve with this, right? Um, Getting into the specific challenges, and the challenges are real, right? We talked about them a little bit, but let me put this in perspective of three different roles in the organization. First, we're going to talk about the developers, right? What are the challenges that the developers face? And it's really comes down to the expectations that they have. The developers that work with microservices are accustomed to consuming cloud resources via standard APIs in a self-service manner. Typically, you talk to them, they'll talk about public cloud, and that's all they know. This is unlike your traditional IT, and it sometimes is conflicting with the nature of the business. I mentioned this. In some cases, applications cannot leave your data centers, whether it's for security reasons, regulatory reasons. On-premises environment is going to be necessary. Yeah, right. And this typically for developers requires creating tickets and creating getting IT to help out with instances and stuff, right? As organizations look to build out their infrastructure, they need to start thinking about cloud as a larger construct, not just the public cloud, but you got to think about private cloud, hybrid cloud, and such, right? What organizations now should be looking to do is replicate that public cloud experience so that their developers and IT admins can easily provision and scale object storage like storage features on demand. And the reason why I say object storage is that's literally the storage for the cloud, right? And when we talk about microservices, modern applications, the kind of storage that fits best with Kubernetes, with containers, is object storage. Are extremely scalable. Typically, the best APIs to use is with these is S3. It is the language of the cloud, and so on. So you want to recreate similar kind of experiences within your data center while maintaining the granular visibility of storage capacity that's being consumed, not just for DevOps, but also to be able to deploy these, right? Hybrid cloud is going to be a key for all of us going forward, right? And for the IT operators, which is our next segment that we also consider, the challenge, right, is going to be in the ability and the capability to deliver these kind of new infrastructure as well as new application capabilities to their clients. Uh, they will see the benefits of having a single platform that can do modern apps and traditional apps. And this is going to be a change in mindset because your traditional IT infrastructure may not be able to do modern apps, and a completely public cloud infrastructure may not be able to handle everything that you want, right? Proliferation of IT stacks leads to poor productivity and increased security risks. So as much as consolidation as you can get is what you want. Uh, Rather than deploying modern stateful apps and services on bare metal to create another infrastructure silo, administration should be looking to unify storage and data platforms for modern and traditional apps on a single proven software defined platform. And this is what we talk about as the key challenges that IT operators will have to overcome, so to speak. And then finally, the executives, right? You always have to look at where the business priorities are. And for the executives, the business priority will come in to what is the most economical way of making sure that we are positioned for the present as well as the future, while not disrupting our existing business. So business continuity is going to be a key aspect for executives, along with the cost associated for modernizing your data infrastructure. And today, we are going to talk to you about how VMware and Cloudian come together to give you that path forward. And I'm going to pass it on to Michaela to talk about Tanzu Kubernetes Grid and the modern app infrastructure from VMware.
Very good. Thank you so much, Amit, for the handoff and the invitation to speak with you today. We are excited to highlight VMware Tanzu Kubernetes Grid collaboration with Cloudian, as well as its accessibility through VMware Marketplace. So for now, I'll start with an overview of VMware Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, or as you mentioned, TKG for short. But TKG is a conformant enterprise-ready Kubernetes runtime that really streamlines operations across multi-cloud infrastructure. So that's a lot. And this picture conveys a lot of helpful infrastructure. So let me break that down a little bit further. So as you just described, we know that when running containers in production, to scale requires tens of thousands of containers across the enterprise, which really increases complexity. You have to have different ways of automating deployment and managing those containers across clusters virtually or on physical machines. And while Kubernetes is the industry standard for container management that can streamline orchestration, it's still pretty considerable heavy lift to operate and stand up the Kubernetes runtime consistently, especially when we're talking about multiple data centers across multiple clouds. Customers also have to have the in-house experience to design, deploy, and integrate all of those necessary components. So Kubernetes Grid, or TKG, has really been engineered to simplify installation and day two operations of Kubernetes across the enterprise. What that means is it is highly integrated with vSphere and can be extended to run with consistency across public cloud and edge environments. In doing so, TKG offers a variety of benefits to unlock real potential in upstream Kubernetes and the ecosystem of open source cloud technology like Cloudian brings. So to get into some specific TKG capabilities, the overarching benefits of TKG are the ability to deploy consistently, to automate, multi-cloud operations, to access integrated services, and align with your open source applications. So in terms of deploying consistently, this really enables users to leverage existing data tools and workflows, giving developers confidence in security and self-service access to Kubernetes clusters. In terms of automating multi-cluster operations, what this means is a true simplification of large-scale multi-cluster Kubernetes environments. That enables simplicity in automation of the lifecycle to reduce risk and really shift your focus to more strategic work. Accessing integrated services means streamlined deployment and more straightforward management of local and in-cluster platform services to maintain and configure production-ready Kubernetes environments, really giving you confidence that this is capable across the organization. And finally, aligning with open source means you have the ability to run containerized applications on Cloud Native Computing Foundation certified Kubernetes distribution and to maintain key open source technologies across the environments. Finally, being an enterprise-ready Kubernetes runtime really enables users to utilize cluster APIs for full lifecycle management. We also offer Tanzu CLI, which is a universal tool to manage TKG in any deployment model. And all of this enables users to achieve this simplified Kubernetes lifecycle management with any model. So now, talking about how that foundation can really support the Cloudian Hyperstore solution, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. So, folks, TKG and the whole movement of VMware to support the Kubernetes ecosystem is really a key driver to a lot of movement, modern applications, cloud native applications for many of the organizations. To have a trusted infrastructure partner giving you the right set of tools is a key. And I'm going to quickly touch on a little bit on the Cloudian Hyperstore product and how we actually integrate into the whole Tanzu Kubernetes Grid ecosystem, and how we offer customers the right set of choices on the infrastructure as they move towards modern applications. So for those of you who haven't heard of Cloudian, well, meet Cloudian. We are the leader in data management software for hybrid cloud. We are built for the hybrid cloud. We are a software-defined storage with military-grade security, limitless scalability, and seamless integration into the cloud. Right. That's our core competency. We let customers optimize data access, meet their data sovereignty requirements, and cut the cost by consolidating information into a single cloud-like platform. That's our whole value prop, and that's what the Cloudian platform is. Right. At its core, we are an object storage system that speaks the language of the cloud and enables you to create this private, public, any cloud layer that can be managed from one place. Right. The key benefits of Cloudian are the following. We deliver the following things to our customer: ability to consolidate any type of data at any scale on a single platform. This includes running servers, VMs, containers, and across the public cloud. We talked about this aspect in the previous segment. Of one of the key challenges is that the IT is going to have to manage the traditional applications as well as the modern applications as they move. There will be this whole transition period, and Cloudian is really designed to be able to work with traditional, modern apps, and anything in between that comes in. Right. Provide the industry's highest level of security and ransomware protection. More on that in a little bit, but just let's just say that this is our forte. Military grade security is a key aspect of why customers choose Cloudian, and especially as you go into the modern applications, being able to transition data on and off public cloud, you need to make sure that your environments are really secure. Ensure the data locality for data privacy and compliance. That's where the on-premises aspect of having an infrastructure that can manage data being where it needs to be for compliance reason comes into play, and we can offer that. And integrate seamlessly with cloud and cloud native apps to deliver single cloud-like management environment that's enterprise-wide. Right. That's what Cloudian offers: a unified storage environment that spans edge to core to cloud. Right. Our core tenet is simplification of your storage needs while saving you up to 60% of the cloud as compared to your enterprise storage today. Right. How do we do that? Well, Cloudian's cloud native design, right? It features the industry's most compatible S3 API on-prem. A lot of you guys have heard of AWS S3. Well, AWS S3 is the product, and S3 API is the API set that they invented, and they've made it a community run, not a community run. It's available to the community from an API set. Cloudian swears by the S3 API and is built on the S3 API natively. Right. This is the storage language for the cloud, and Cloudian is the only enterprise system built from the ground up on the S3 API. This includes every call and every error code that either AWS S3 actually incorporates within itself. With full S3 compatibility, that the software and the application that you have written for the cloud, in this case AWS S3, and beyond AWS S3 as well, because S3 also is been adopted by the other cloud vendors. Any application that's been developed for the cloud will work on Cloudian, and vice versa. That's just as important. Anything that you develop on-prem on Cloudian, you can have the mobility to take it to the cloud and be rest assured that it's going to work with AWS S3, for example. Cloudian's service-ready architecture offers the most complete set of management features available for an object storage, right? Cloudian was built for service providers and large organizations. Why is that important? Well, at the core, we have features that are built in to the system that are designed for multi-use and multi-share. What are these? Is the multi-tenancy features, the billings, the chargeback, the quality of service controls. All of these have become standard, not just for service providers, but for large organizations. Think about central IT system that's trying to siphon off some storage needs for the DevOps space, but they also have requirements from a deployment perspective that needs better quality of service, and needs to be able to monitor in terms of which department needs to be built, and so on and so forth. So all of this is very important. Cloudian is built service ready from the ground up, right? Lastly, global management tools that are also built into Cloudian give you a deep insight into your data, your network, and your users. This makes management scalable as your enterprises and as your environment grows. If you prefer, you can even manage your Cloudian environment by giving it back to us. We have something called the Cloudian Care, where the whole environment can be remotely managed, thereby reducing the stress on the IT, at least from a storage side, right? Coming to our relationship with VMware, and where do we actually integrate with VMware? VMware is a strategic partner for Cloudian, and we've been working with VMware for a long time now, right? There are multiple VMware integration points for Cloudian, and it all started with the vCloud Director. So Cloudian is integrated into the vCloud Director through the object storage extension that's plugged into vCloud Director. With that, we are actually part of VMware's cloud provider program, and you can actually acquire Cloudian object storage through your VMware cloud provider program points, so to speak. And beyond that, we are working to get integrated into the VMware Sovereign Cloud through the whole VCPP program itself. The other aspect of where we integrate into VMware is the entire Tanzu ecosystem, right? We started with getting integrated into the vCloud Foundation and the vSAN data persistent platform for Tanzu. So if you look at the availability for object storage in the VCF for Tanzu piece, you can actually get Cloudian to automatically plug into the whole aspect of this. And then more recently, we have been certified and worked with various teams to get integrated into VMware Tanzu Kubernetes Grid services and Tanzu Kubernetes Grid multi-cloud. As an umbrella term, it's now Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, Michaela, right? So we are integrated into Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, and then I do want to mention a couple of other integration points. Is we work with VMware Bolero, which is the whole backup piece for modern applications, Kubernetes and containerized applications from VMware, as well as the analytics piece, which is the whole Tanzu Data Services now, as it's been branded under the umbrella of VMware's Greenplum data warehouse system. And finally, Cloudian is available for download directly from VMware's marketplace, tying all of these things together. So Michaela will cover that towards the end of this presentation. So let's quickly go into, before we go into how we actually integrate into the TKG piece here, we really want to touch upon why is it important to know and work with object storage when we are transitioning to modern apps, right? Uh, we touched upon this a little bit, but more details on this are basically on the slide here. What we really want to talk about is the whole need of the developers that want to run 1,000 miles an hour when it comes to application development, right? Developers want to use the self-service model of the public cloud, and object storage offers them that. They don't want to wait for a block of file data storage systems to be carved out for them through IT. They want the flexibility and self-service model that comes with object storage. With object storage, developers can easily get the storage endpoints without having to go through ticketed systems, right? Create mount points and the likes. The standardization on the S3 protocol is key. This is the de facto standard of the public cloud, and that's what you want in your data center as well. The whole distributed and scale out design of object storage makes it a perfect fit for modern apps, right? The whole microservices architecture is distributed, so you want your storage systems to also be distributed, and that's where object storage is again a perfect fit. You can easily scale storage with your application needs, and the whole object storage uh, aspect being perfect for unstructured data, whether it's video, media, logs, anything. It makes it a very very good fit for running a wide variety of use cases, and not being limited to one specific type of data whether it's transaction data or unstructured. Everything can go into object storage. That's why it's a best fit for modern applications, and that's why it's getting the most adoption for modern application. Why on-prem? Well, using cloud services is like staying in a hotel. It's simple, agile, but it can be expensive. We all know that. We've all been there. It's great for a few nights, but you can't make your residence there. We are seeing some customers move their workloads on prem from the cloud. At one point this was termed as cloud repatriation, but what's becoming more apparent is there is going to be a coexistence of on-prem cloud, public cloud, and the whole hybrid cloud era is a reality. So invest in object storage on-prem so that you can, whatever you built for your cloud services can go anyway. The data mobility piece is going to be huge, right? Again, why on-prem is important? Well, there's always going to be data gravity. That's a real term. Yeah, right. So wherever moving applications and services data is going to be important, because there's definitely going to be some data that you will never be able to move onto the public cloud. Data sovereignty in especially in a lot of EMEA countries, rest of the world countries, is a reality. It's becoming a big deal, right? This is due to security and compliance requirements. That's where on-premises object storage is also important. And then, of course, the last piece is data protection, right? Other than for modern application development, object storage can also be used as a backup target for traditional applications. One of the biggest use cases for Cloudian has been data protection with our key partners like Veeam and some of the other data protection partners, to be able to protect your data from deletion and from malicious attacks like ransomware. So all of these things to put together tells you the reason why you need to consider object storage for your modern application infrastructure, and why on premises is a key piece for that, right? So going into our integration with Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, and and VCF for Tanzu for that matter, right? We are completely integrated into the Tanzu family, and now we have certifications for Cloudian to be used with VCF for Tanzu and Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. Why this is important for you is, as a customer, you can be rest assured that these applications work well together and they're the right fit for your environment, right? We actually have VMware Partner Ready for Tanzu and VMware Ready for Tanzu certifications. And you can actually go look at some of these aspects on the marketplace right after this call, right? What this does is it brings enterprise ready S3 persistent storage for your Kubernetes applications in your data center. So that's actually a key aspect. Hyperstore is a containerized model, so you can actually download the whole container from the marketplace and be up and running with your TKG environment with storage in a very short time, right? Uh, with this, you will get the industry-leading S3 compatibility that ensures not just that you have persistent storage for your um, you know Kubernetes environment, but also you have cloud native compatibility and application portability to and from the public cloud. Right? Use cases that you can deploy here include, but are not limited to, DevOps, as we said, right? DevOps is a key use case for modern apps and the Kubernetes environment. But you can also run analytic applications. Examples of these would be your Splunk, your Greenplum databases, and the likes. AI/ML and big data workloads. Uh, Content delivery systems such as container registry, video streamings, and the likes. And then, of course, the whole data protection archival piece for enterprise business critical applications, whether it's traditional or modern apps, right? For the modern apps piece, we mentioned that Cloudian is certified with the VMware Valero. We are also certified with Kasten, which is also another aspect that VMware works with, and other data protection applications on the modern apps piece. Most importantly, listed and downloadable from the VMware marketplace. So that's a very important piece from an enablement perspective. Uh, uh, so why consider Cloudian for your needs? Well, scalability is the number one piece, right? Limitlessly scalable. It's a modular architecture. You can keep downloading different nodes for Cloudian and keep increasing it from there. Each Cloudian software instance is a node, and all Cloudian nodes work together to seamlessly create a scalable cluster, right? Cloudian node can be deployed on any platform. You can start with containers, but you can also intermingle this with virtual machines, industry standard servers. You may have some already that will also work. And of course, we also have the capability of running in any of the public clouds. Cloudian nodes can be located anywhere, so storage can be wherever you need. Yet it can be managed centrally. And then finally, we are hybrid cloud enabled. You can actually have your data reside land in Cloudian on-prem, be tiered into the public cloud, or have a disaster recovery copy in the public cloud. So all of that is definitely also on the books. And finally, I do want to talk about this because this is key piece of what Cloudian offers, is our military grade security, right? And I'm going to start with the box on the right hand corner, which is our security certification. So we work a lot with the federal government, state and local as well, and we have the most complete set of security certifications of any object storage vendor on-prem out there. Okay, we have been successfully deployed in multiple Department of Defense agencies as a government at government sites all around the world and in highly regulated environments. Coming back to the data immutability piece, this is something that's a key feature for Cloudian, and we pride ourselves to have the best implementation of S3 object lock on-prem there is, right? This is to protect your data from ransomware by making it immutable, which is another term for unchangeable or tamper-proof, until a retention period has been met. Ransomware cannot encrypt your data when your data is under object lock, and Hyperstore is actually hardened, right? We have a feature called Hyperstore shell, and the capability to disable root when you're shipped in the object lock mode, which makes the solution impregnable. It's completely locked for the duration that you've defined, and your solution becomes ransomware proof. Secure multi-tenancy features allow multiple users to share the common infrastructure while maintaining full separation of storage and data management domains. And finally, Cloudian incorporates the the one of the best, the most robust encryption um, um, capabilities for data at rest and in flight. Um, these are following the stringent standards set by National Institute of Standards and Technology and the Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, and NIST. With that, I've given you guys a little bit of a primer on what Cloudian is, how we integrate into TKG, and I'm going to pass it on to Michaela to talk to you about how you can actually acquire Cloudian along with TKG.
Yes, thank you. So now that we're excited about acquiring Cloudian, I'm going to take you through a few steps to show you how. But first, by providing a brief overview on what the VMware Marketplace is. So VMware Marketplace is a one-stop shop for VMware validated and certified ecosystem solutions, such as Cloudian Hyperstore, that enables customers to not only discover and try solutions, but actually purchase or deploy directly to their VMware endpoint. The Marketplace catalog today has over 2,300 solutions from our partners, such as Cloudian, that span across a variety of solution categories, as well as supporting a number of different form factors. We really make it easy for customers to find and access a variety of solutions at the click of a button. And so the steps to deploy Cloudian are pretty straightforward. When you find the solution on VMware Marketplace, you have the ability to select the version, to go ahead and click through the EULA directly through VMware Marketplace, and then to follow the deployment instructions. So it's a quick 3-step process once you land on VMware Marketplace. So to get started, you would visit the Marketplace URL, which I have here included in the slides, and we'll make sure that you have access to afterwards. But marketplace.cloud.vmware.com will take you to the VMware Marketplace homepage, from which you can search for Cloudian, review the solution details, which we can see a screenshot of here on the right, and then click Deploy. And that button will take you through the 3-step process to deploy directly to your VMware endpoint. A couple of other things that I want to point out here on the solution page is that you can review not only the description and technical details that Amit walked us through today, but you can verify the solution compatibility through those certification and validation programs that Amit highlighted, namely Partner Ready for VMware Tanzu and the VMware Ready certification, of which badges Cloudian Hyperstore appears here on the left-hand side. Of course, we always have support teams here at the Ready to help you access the solution, as well as Cloudian's team. But from myself with VMware Marketplace, as well as our broader team, we're here to ensure that you're able to access and deploy the solution easily. And so thank you very much for inviting us to present today, Amit. I will close it off and hand it back to you.
Thank you, Michaela. This was definitely amazing, and the partnership between VMware and Cloudian is very strategic for us, and I'm really glad that we have a very closely integrated solution that we can bring to our customers. So, looking forward to a lot more good stuff with you guys.
Definitely, all for the benefit of joint users who can benefit from these integrations and expand their capabilities together with Cloudian and VMware Tanzu. So thank you.
Jen, back to you. Do we have questions? Not sure if I can see
Yeah,
that.
so I'd like to thank you guys for joining us today, and we do have some time for questions. So with that, if you do have any and you haven't entered them in the questions box, please sure to do that right now. And again, I just want to point out that we've included content in the attachments area, so please take a look at that as well. So our first question is, let's see here. I was aware of Cloudian Hyperstore appliance. What are all the deployment options for Hyperstore?
I'll take that. So Cloudian at its core is a software-defined storage, right? And we are able to run on any x86 based hardware, storage hardware there is. We do have an appliance story, and customers can actually get a Cloudian appliance. But we are industry standard, so we have reference architectures with the likes of Dell, Lenovo, Cisco, HPE, SMC, and the likes. Today, what we've been talking about is our container story, and Cloudian is available also as a containerized application. It's a completely self-contained storage application that runs on Kubernetes environment, like Tanzu Kubernetes Grid and VCF for Tanzu. So multiple options, deployment options. I did not even talk about the OVA based option. We do support running Cloudian as a VM, again on your vSphere infrastructure, for example. That's another option that you can have. So it's really all about enabling the customers and giving them the choice of how they want to deploy their storage infrastructure so that they can support the various applications.
Perfect. Thanks for that. We do have another question. So it's, how does Cloudian Hyperstore stop ransomware attacks? Does this also include data exfiltration attacks?
Right. So I mentioned ransomware, and this is again our marquee feature. This all comes from our security jobs, so to speak. Going back to a few slides, there was the whole S3 object lock, which I mentioned. Now, this is a software feature, and what this does is it enables you to completely lock up your data within at the granularity of an object, so that it's completely unchangeable. And how long is it unchangeable? Well, it's defined at the time that you create that object. So you can create an object saying that the data landing in this object is immutable for, let's say, 30 days. And for that duration, nobody can tamper with this data, right? We also disable the root in this mode so that not even administrators or super users can actually go and touch this data. What happens after 30 days is the lock expires and that data is again changeable, deletable. However, how this stops ransomware is basically on how ransomware works, right? You have a hacker get into your system and they typically do a cryptographic ransomware attack, which means they encrypt your data and they will hold it for ransom. Now, encrypting the data means making some changes, and for the 30 days that we put the lock, the data is unchangeable. So your cryptographic attacks are no longer valid in this scenario. And that's how object lock data on Cloudian becomes your last and the best defense that you can have, because you can put as much security on the front end, on the networking piece, on the trying to stop people from getting into your system, but all you need is one loose chink in the chain, so to speak, and you'll have a hacker get in. What Cloudian offers you is, even if the hackers get in, your data is immutable, unchangeable for the time frame, so that it does not affect your business continuity. Now, the second part of the question, which was also very interesting, which is the data exfiltration piece. Now, that's a newer kind of ransomware attack. I talked about the cryptographic attack, but you also have the exfiltration where The hacker, if they get in, they will make a copy of the data. Remember, the data is unchangeable, but it's still readable. So they can make a copy of that and they can post it externally. So let's say sensitive data is actually released. And we've seen these kind of attacks happen, right? Object lock does not stop that, but the other piece of Cloudian Hyperstore, where you actually have 256-bit encryption capabilities on data at rest and data in motion, what happens is you can actually pre-encrypt your data so that only you have the key to decrypt it. So even if a hacker comes in and is able to make a copy of the data, they just get garbage, right? They cannot read it unless they have the key. So data exfiltration attacks can be avoided that way. It comes down to implementation, because we can give you all the tools, but for whatever reason, if we IT has not implemented certain things, it still is, there is vulnerability. So therefore, when we work with our customers, we have a best practices of what we give our prospects and customers of what you need to do to avoid not just ransomware attack, but all kind of security issues that you may have. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that. And another question, is the Cloudian Hyperstore on the marketplace a full version or a feature limited version? And then what are the terms?
It is a full version. It is completely feature rich. Initially, what you do is that the terms is, anybody can go download the Cloudian for Hyperstore for containers and start the deployment. You will have to reach out to Cloudian to get the license that you have, and we do offer the full version of Cloudian for a limited period of time so that you can get used to it. And beyond that, of course, the sales cycle is still standard from our perspective, where after, let's say, 6 months, 12 months, whatever, you engage with your sales rep and look at how do you want to deploy it for a longer term, actually, with Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. And it's a license based software, so we can get to that point as and when you get comfortable with the software. But it is not a feature limited software that you get from VMware Marketplace. It is a full version, and again, it just is based on how and when you want to get the deployable one version for production.
Perfect. Thank you. And that concludes our questions for today. If you still have questions, be sure to reach out. And you can also find more information at cloudian.com/VMware, or again, vsan@cloudian.com. So thank you guys for joining us today. This was great. Thanks for our audience, and feel free to check out the attachments as well. Thanks, guys.